Tonight's topic is we're going to be talking about Black Lives Matter. Now, do Black lives really matter? And if they do, why do they matter? Well, to be honest, the answer is yes and no. You see, ever since the early 1900s, every nationality has come to the United States and wanted their rights to be heard, wanted their voice to be heard. So Black Lives Matter wanted to be heard. Okay, great. So you had Asian people wanted to be heard, Hispanic people wanted to be heard, East Indian people wanted to be heard, European people wanted to be heard, Australian people wanted to be heard. You had every single nationality and every single culture and every single group wanted to be heard, right? Well, great. What's the difference? Here we are in 2020 and people still want to be heard. Okay, so I get it. Okay, so black people, you feel like you're still not in the position that you should be in. Am I correct? Well, phone me if I'm not. Call me, give us a call at the studio if we're not. But let's be honest here, okay? If you are going to make noise and loot and rob and break into buildings and flip over cars and burn people and shoot people and kill people, no matter what nationality or what group you belong to, do you really think that your voice is gonna make a huge difference? I mean, sure, people are gonna recognize you, but do you really think that they're gonna pay attention to you and take you seriously? For the most part, I think that they're just going to be afraid of you and go tell you to take a hike and have a great day. You know, there's other nationalities such as brown pride, Asian pride, European pride, Indian pride, Native American pride, all these different groups. They deserve to be on the top too because their lives matter too. So let's put it that way. I mean, Black Lives Matter, yeah, well, so does everybody else's. Okay. So, but the bottom line, I guess, is what they're getting at is that they were brought to this country and they were slaves. Is that right? Well, okay. I get that point that they were brought to this country on a ship of workers that were, for the most part, I guess, against their will, and they were taken from their families maybe way back when. But it happened. You can't change it. There's nothing you can do about that. It's real, it existed, and it did take place. Now, to be fair, I mean, when these people went over to this different country, all they saw were people living out in the sticks, out in the trees, living some sort of a caveman lifestyle to them, and they thought that they were just like a caveman type of person. So, they figured, well, what's the harm? They're just cavemen anyway, so let's bring them in. But, the truth is they were people. And you're right. You're absolutely correct. All the black people, they have a very good point that, they were people. They weren't just cavemen sitting out in the middle of Africa somewhere or Somalia or wherever they were. And, they were human beings. And, these Caucasians, though, they were kind of stupid back in the early 16, 17, 1800s. It's a new country, new state, new world, and all of a sudden we discover all these people who look like cavemen or whatever. So I get it. But that your time has come. You guys have had presidents and senators and governors and military personnel and this and lawyers and that and doctors and this and that, realtors, and you've made a really good career. You guys dominated the sports market. You've dominated the music market. You've dominated the fashion market. You've dominated the dancing market. You've dominated the player market where you play women. You've dominated all of the markets, all of the above. What more can Black Lives Matter say than you've already said? You guys have dominated every aspect of every art form and entertainment. And so has brown pride, so is Asian pride, so is European pride. All of these people, Indian pride, Native American pride, all these people have had their opportunities to shine, and some have excelled better. For example, the Caucasians, are really good at running countries. Well, okay, that remains to be seen. I know my family is really good at running countries, but I'm King Rollo's great-grandson. And King Rollo who is the guy who gave birth to all the kings and queens. And then, you have all the United States weirdos who are running the country today who are not descendants of King Rollo, but they're second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 10th cousins of me. And that means that they got mixed, matched, and flipped upside down in their DNA. By the time they got to who they are, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. But I am the pure line. I'm the pure straight line, straight to King Rollo. There is no pass go. I mean, I'm straight King Rollo's family. My mom has his last name. My grandma has his last name. My great-grandma has his last name. So, but everybody excels in something. In every group excels in something. But, to say Black Lives Matter is more important than everybody else, to put them on top, to make them kings of the world, and say that this is better, and they can have the right to tear down statues, and they can take down George Washington as if George Washington never happened, and Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln, and George Littlefield in Texas, and Texas Rangers statues, and you can take stuff down all over the world and spray paint it and deface it and graffiti it and say that Black Lives Matter. I guess I'm missing part of that. Fast forward to November of 2019, Black Lives Matter was walking through Hollywood, California, and there was a Caucasian guy just walking down the street on Wilcox and Hollywood Boulevard. He got attacked by 3 Black Lives Matter people, and his neck was broken, and his shoulder was broken, and he had multiple surgeries on his shoulder. And not only that, but he was also a disabled person, and he had a broken back already. So they attacked a person with a broken back who was disabled, broke his shoulder, and broke his neck. Because Black Lives Matter? I'm sorry, I don't get that. He was the only white person on that street, and because he was on that street, Black Lives Matter took it upon themselves to get him off of that street, even though he was disabled. I find that, he had blonde hair, blue eyes, no tattoos, he was just a Christian kid. So, you have all of these things happening across the world, and now you want to say that you are more important. Okay, well, let's look at the fallback of what's really going on here too. Because each race is dominating certain markets, you're also dominating all the women. For example, all the white women, the European women, the Caucasian women. They're falling and mixing and matching for other races now. Do you know what's happening to the Caucasian race? It's dying. It's disappearing. Do you know why? Because they are being forced to fall in love with Black Lives Matter people. They're being forced to fall in love with Hispanic matters. They're being forced to fall in love with Asians and Indians and Native Americans because now the Caucasian race is the minority. Yeah, congratulations, all you groups out there. You each had about 10 kids while the Caucasians only had 2 or 3 kids each. But each of your families had about 10 kids. So now where's all the white women? Where's all the Caucasian women, European women? Well, they're disappearing. Why? Because all your families had at least 10 kids each. So, you have your rights. You had your rights. You had your choices. You made your choices, and you excelled in your field. So why are you still yelling and screaming and blowing stuff up and burning stuff and saying that this matters and that matters and it's more important than this and that? Are you all blind? I mean, yes, everyone has a right to speak up for themselves. It's a constitutional right. But you don't have a right to destroy an entire Caucasian race. And you don't have a right to hurt people. And you don't have a right to vandalize people. It's just, I'm beside myself. I can't figure out why you guys would think that. But here we are in 2020, and we're still going against this. And, it doesn't matter if it's the back of the bus, the side of the bus, the top of the bus, the front of the bus, or the bottom of the bus. There's a white elephant in the room. And that white elephant in the room is that somebody needs to stop yelling and screaming about your rights. You've made your points, and you've made them hundreds and thousands of times over by excelling in football and baseball and soccer and dancing and singing and all these wonderful things, and you still want more. It's like you're trying to take over the world or something. If I didn't know any better, I would say Black Lives Matter is trying to take over the world. Brown Lives Matter is trying to. Asian Lives Matter. Indian, Native American. You're all trying to take over the world because you all had about 10 kids each, and all the Caucasian families only had 2 or 3 each. Well, good job. You've outnumbered all the Caucasians. Well, I hope your lives matter over everybody else's, but they don't. Everybody's lives matter. This has been Power Hour. I'm your host, Milliam Monroe, de Clifford Plantagenet.